Hey guys, this is Marcus from ml-records.de. In this video I want to show you what you can do with Pultec EQs on your drum set. So if you're interested, stay tuned and check it out. So, long time no see. I was pretty busy the last weeks with my band Skip to Friday. We released our third album, Tanken an der Punkstelle. If you're interested, check them out. Just search on the streaming platforms or YouTube or I don't know with what you consume music. Just search for Skip to Friday and check it out. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I've bought myself a new outboard EQ. It's a 500 series EQ from Lindell. It's this one. Pretty neat EQ, Pultec style. And I've played around with it a little bit with the drum tracks you already know from my mini series from the room mics. And I've decided to show you what you can do with your drums only using Pultec EQs. So let's have a look on it, what I've done, and I hope I can give you some tips and show you some tricks what you can do using Pultec EQs. So, as I mentioned, these are the tracks from the mini-series about the room mics, and I don't want to go too deep into the tracks themselves. I've recorded a kick drum, a snare, a tom mic for 2 toms, one SM57. We won't have a look on this one. I've recorded a stereo pair of overheads, and I've also decided to use the SE Electronics Voodoos for the room tracks. All these tracks are routed to my drum group. And yeah, let's just go top down, cause let me switch all the plugins off, because I've already got a Pultec style EQ on my drum bass. So I will show you what this does. I also got a reverb here. I'm going to show you this one at the end. But let's have a listen to the Pultec of the complete drum track at first. After that, I've also got my SSL style outboard compressor as well as the cardstock K-Clip 0. This is a free plugin. You can download it for free. I recommend you to do that because it's a pretty good clipping plugin. And yeah, let's just have a listen to the complete drum tracks. And I will switch the Pultec on and off, and then we have a look on the EQ and especially what I've done with it. Let's go. Off. On. So, I haven't done so much on the complete drum bass track, but I've pushed the 500 Hertz area a little bit because I think you're cutting so much in the 500 area with each single track of the drum sets that you lose so much punch of the drums. And I've decided, for me it's pretty necessary or significant to give some of the lower mid-range back. So I've pushed the 500 a little, and I've also pushed the 12K area to let the drums a little bit, to let the drums shine a little more. And I've boosted them pretty, I've boosted them pretty much with a very broad band. So if you haven't already checked a Pultec EQ, these are 3 Pultec EQs in one plugin. This is a low pass and a high pass filter. This is the Pultec. This is the Pultec itself. It's got one band for the bass, got one band for the higher mids and the upper frequency, and also for the highest frequency you can also attenuate the pretty highs. And this is a mid-band Pultec style EQ, where you can boost one frequency, you can cut one, and you also can boost one. And what I've done is I've boosted the 500 area, as I mentioned, and I've boosted the 12K area. Yeah, let's have a before and after again. So it directly gets more in your face, right? And now let's go to the kick drum mic. Let's see what I've done here. I've put a high cut at a 12K. I've boosted the 30 Hertz area pretty hard and also attenuate it. And what it does if you boost and cut a frequency with a Pultec at the same time is that you boost the lower amount of the frequency you set and you cut the higher amount of the frequency. So you get some kind of an S-curve in the EQ. I've also boosted the 5K area to get the kick more present. And I've also boosted the 1K area as well as the 500 Hertz area to get the kick drum more beef. And for the clickiness, I've also boosted the 3K area. Let's have a listen what this does. This EQ does. Off. On. So the kick drum comes to the front and gets the clicky sound that you need to cut through a rock mix. With the snare drum, I've added my outboard EQ from Lindell. Did I mention it? It's the PeQ-501a. And I've set it as a plugin, but it's pretty much an outboard hardware. So in Cubase you can set an external effect, send the signal to the external effect and the return, and you can use your outboard gear as a plugin. And that is what I've done. And I can tell you right now, I've boosted. Let's have a look at these. So you got the bands here, the first band, the lower band, the high band, and here you got the pretty highs where you can attenuate it. And what I've done is I've boosted the 100 Hertz area with settings on 5, so the settings to boost and attenuate are stepped and they're going from 0 to 10. So I set the 100 Hertz area at 5. And I've set it the high band at 5K and boosted it with 6 and had a band, a middle band. So it's not pretty broad, it's not pretty narrow, it's in the middle. And I've also attenuated 20K. So this is the absolute highs of the snare drum mic that also got the hi-hat in it. It's nothing that destroys your snare sound if you attenuate some of the pretty highs, but it cleans the snare drum a little bit. So let's have a listen. I will play the tracks back and will activate the outboard EQ. Off. on. So you can hear the snare drum gets fatter and bigger and makes more impact when the hard hits are coming. But that wasn't enough for me, so I added another Pultec EQ, and that is this one, and I've set a low cut at 80 Hz. We don't need anything below that frequency. And I've pushed the 5K area again with a small or a sharp bandwidth. And I've also boosted the 200 Hz area again. And I attenuated the 500 area. This is where the ring of the snare drum and the muddiness is mostly. And when I play it back, I will switch it on and off, and I will play with the attenuate button over here, so you can hear how the snare drum gets cleaner. If you overdo this one, the snare drum gets pretty flat and loses its punch. Yeah, and I also added at 2K, added the crack of the lo-fi crack of the snare, and I've boosted it pretty much. So I will switch this on and off while playing the tracks back. This is flat, and here it gets bigger. Now let me play with the 500 area. So here the snare drum gets pretty flat. This is pretty muddy. And I think in this setting the snare drum already sounds pretty nice, just with some small EQ moves on this Pultec. As I mentioned, we won't have a look on the tom mic because it doesn't do anything in these tracks. The next microphone, or the next microphones I processed are the overheads, and I've already seen that I've already activated it. That's no problem. I will play the track back and will switch it on and off. So let's have a look at the EQ and what I've done. I've set the low cut at 100 Hz. I think I don't need anything from the overheads that is below 100 Hz. And I've also, because I've used ribbon mics to get the overheads recorded, and the ribbon mics are already a little darker. And to compensate this, I've set the Pultec to 16K and pushed this frequency just a little bit with a very broad band. And what this one does is, at first you get the cymbals to shine a little bit more, and also the snare gets a little bit more of the highs that you need if you're only recording with one top mic of the snare drum. Yeah, I will play it back one more time and will boost it a little more so you can really hear what it does, okay? Listen to the hi-hat. Yeah, you can also hear it on the snare drum, but this is pretty much about the cymbals. And the last microphone I've processed are the room mics. And here I've used two plugins. I've used the Pultec EQ as well as a compressor. And at first we have a look on the Pultec. For the rune tracks, I've cut it out everything below 50 Hertz. And I've boosted the 100 area to get a little bit more punch from the snare and the kick drum, or a little bit more bass. And then I've pushed the 8K area to give it a little more snap. And also for the lo-fi crack, as well as I've done it for the snare drum, I've done the same move here and boosted the 1.5K area. So I will switch this on and off while playing all the tracks back. Off. This is a little flat. This is a little more hi-fi. And what I've also done, as I mentioned, I've put a FET compressor after the Pultec. And let's have a listen what it does. I will solo it for you. So these are the room tracks soloed. Put on the Pultec and the compressor. So what I'm going to do now is so the signal path is that the room mics go to the Pultec EQ, getting EQ'd, and then moving to the compressor and getting compressed. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to switch off only the EQ, so you can have a listen to what the EQ does, even if a compression is on the track. Okay, I've put it off. On, off. Listen to the snare drum. So what you get with the EQ moves I've set to the room tracks is you get this whipping sound from the snare drum a little bit more. So I will put these two plugins. I will play all the tracks back and will remove both of the plugins and put it back in, and you can have a listen to the difference. So again, as I told you in my mini-series, you can see how important these microphones are. They are bringing the complete drum set together and making the single tracks sound a little bit more like a complete drum set in the room, right? So I've done one more thing, and I've added on the complete drum bass, I've added a reverb, and I've used the Rotten Pool reverb by Aurora DSP. I think this is a pretty great reverb, pretty aggressive, but sounds great. If you wanted to check out more about this plugin, I think it's from Christian Kohle, and I think he made a video how he recorded or how he get the reverb sound. So check it out if you wanted to know more in depth. Yeah, check it on YouTube. I think you can find something over there. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put the reverb. So as I mentioned, I'm sending all the drum tracks to the reverb. And now I'm going to push the reverb into the mix so far that I think it sounds good. So let's have a listen what it does. Off. On. So I will do this again and have a close listen to the kick drum. If you know the old 80s LA hair metal style classic rock stuff, like, I don't know, Skid Row, Bon Jovi and stuff like this, these reverb are really having a focus on the kick drum, and I think it makes the kick drum sound so huge and so big. I really like it for a rock song. This one really kicks ass. So I will switch it on and off again, and you can have a closer listen, especially to the kick drum and also a little bit to the lower frequencies of the snare drum. On. Off. Yeah, and this is everything I wanted to show you today. Yeah, so I hope you learned a little bit today. I really enjoyed playing around with the Pultec EQs. Was pretty much fun for me, and I think I'm not ready right now playing around with the outboard EQ. You know, it's so much fun to twist the knobs and see what happens and going to the extremes. But I hope I could show you some tricks how you can improve your drum sound with only one simple EQ plugin. And I'm hoping I'm going to make new videos just in time. It's pretty hard at this moment. I've got so much to do with my band and stuff, but yeah, I will try to give my best and give you more tips and tricks. And till then, yeah, see you guys. Bye.